Hi, I'm Bill Watson, owner of Nashville Tracks, also the producer and engineer, NashvilleTracks.com. We use professional grade players, some of the best players in the business actually, to record demos and masters for songwriters, and we also add instrument tracks to self-produced projects here in the United States and all over the world. Here's Janae Fleener. She plays for Blake Shelton. She plays on the TV show The Voice. One of the top dog fiddle players in Nashville. She is going to give us her take on the Nashville songwriting business.
Want to be in the business, you got to move here. So, I mean, I know that's a big leap for some people, but I think NSAI is probably a good place to start. I feel like they could answer a lot of those questions. I got really lucky, and I already knew a lot of songwriters from playing fiddle, different people, and my first gig was with Larry Cordell, who was a hit songwriter, so I had those people to call and those connections. But I feel like if you're here and really don't have a place to go, I think NSAI is a great place to start. And one of the best pieces of advice I got when I moved to town and started songwriting was right downtown. I know that sounds weird, but the more you can be in it, and you know, you'll see somebody at lunch and it might spur a conversation and be like, oh, hey, we need to write sometime. When I started out writing, I was sometimes afraid to write by myself, and I did a lot of co-writing, which is amazing, and it's always good to write with people that are better than you, and I tried to do that as much as I could, you know, because you pick up things along the way. But I would say don't be afraid to write by yourself, which that might sound, some people only like to write by themselves.
Right.
So in that case, maybe don't be afraid to co-write. Sometimes don't think just whatever comes on the paper is the right thing, and that's, you know, it's a craft, and you can read books on it and obviously listen to your favorite songwriters, but I mean, some great songs have taken years to write.
Have you worked with any co-writers that sort of took offense to you saying their line wasn't the best that it could be, or maybe we should replace that?
Every once in a while, you get your feelings hurt every once in a while, but you can't, you know, you learn after a while that it is a craft, and sometimes you have to, it's a weird term, but kill your babies. You know, these ideas you've been holding on to for so long, and you know, but sometimes you'll throw an idea out to your co-writers, and maybe that's not the right group of people to write that certain song with. So you might take it to another group of co-writers, and it works like magic. There's a lot of different ways to do it. People ask me, do you write the music first, or do you have the lyric or the hook? But every time is a different experience. So for me, I feel like my strong point is the musical part of it. And I usually pair well with a good lyricist. But anyway, you kind of got to know your strengths and weaknesses too.
We have Jim Riley, the drummer for Rascal Flatts, with us today. Jim is going to talk to us about some tips that he has for people trying to break into the songwriting business here in Nashville.
I would say that even the world's greatest songwriters eventually find themselves here for one reason or another. There are very successful songwriters that do not live in Nashville. But I think for the most part, most of the songwriters that are in the system that are getting their songs pitched to major artists are here. You want to be where the action is, where you can put your ear to the ground and kind of catch the vibe of what's going on in town. And if you're out of town, it's hard to know what song pluggers are looking for their artists. And I think that the best thing to do if you're an aspiring songwriter, do demos. The system that Bill's got with Nashville Tracks is awesome because you can get a lot of great Nashville musicians on your project. But if you're wanting to get stuff recorded, the best thing to do is to come to town. So if you're satisfied with writing songs and performing them in your hometown, then you can stay there. But if your goal is to get your songs cut by major artists in Nashville, the best thing to do is definitely come to Nashville.
We can sleep in late on Sunday, talk about the time when one day.
This is a song by Dallas Marshall called In the Summertime. It's a great example of a well-written song and a good demo. Okay, the first thing I notice about this song, it sounds modern. I hear a drum loop going there that sounds very much like what's happening on the radio. And the other thing, we just listened to the intro, I really like that he's about to get into the song and it's only 4 bars long.
A hot dang, sitting on the bank, blue jeans in a little white tank, laid back with the cold one in her hand.
Already I can tell this is a really well-written lyric. I don't hear any forcing of the words. Also, the singer's quality is very good. Yes.
Propped on a stick, Ray-Bans, that girl is so
Okay. We just got into the back half of verse 1, and I'm hearing alliteration with the fishing pole propped on a stick. The 2 P's, they have a certain ring to them because he's using the technique of alliteration.
She's as pretty as can be. I hope that we can make some memories. Yeah.
I like he has a little pre-chorus here. Not every song needs one, but I think it works really well, and it's only 2 bars long, and boom, we're into the chorus.
Don't get no better than this in the summertime. A cold beer, hot girl, warm kiss in the summertime.
I like the cold beer, hot girl, playing on the opposites, 2 opposites, cold and hot. See, I feel like I already know it. Don't get no better than this in the summertime. A nice short little 4-bar turn. He doesn't try to turn it into a big solo. It's way too early in the song for that. I'm not really positive if he... Good tight writing, that's the best it can be. Not too wordy. Now that's a song I can work with.
I swear this must be destiny. Better thank my lucky stars that I got her here in my arms. Yeah, don't get no better than this in the summertime. A cold beer, hot girl, warm kiss in the summertime. I fell in love at the fishing hole, and I don't ever want to let her go. Don't get no better than this in the summertime.
If you have a turnaround in your song, which is a short instrumental piece that's not the solo, the turn would normally come in just after the chorus. And what I see a lot is people who make like an 8 or 16 bar turn right there. I feel like that's entirely too soon to bring in a solo. So what you're really trying to create is the turn. That's usually only about 4 bars, and it's usually taken straight out of your introduction. This is how long your intro should be. You'll never hear a publisher say the intro was too short. On the other hand, too long is very common. They want you to get to the hook of the song as quickly as possible, and if it's not a record, you can easily do a 4-bar intro every time, and that's plenty, sometimes even 2 bars to get into the song, get to your hook quicker. if it's just intended to play for A&R. But if you have a long intro, 8 bars, 16 bars, 8 bars is okay in some instances, 16 is way too long. Many times we get a song where the singer that we hired to sing the demo or master, whatever it is, they can't quite fit the words in and they kind of sound bunched together. So that's a sign that the song's probably too wordy for the tempo that it is. Sometimes you can adjust that by making the tempo a little bit slower. It gives the singer a little more space. But often your song's just too wordy. You really need to edit that down to be as concise as possible. A very typical thing that I see that we have to change here in the studio would be a song that comes in with the chorus is a little bit too long. Usually 16 bars a chorus is too much. Typically 8 bars is about right. Unless your tempo is really quick and it's moving very fast, you could probably get away with 16 bars. But if you have a medium tempo or a slow song with a 16 bar chorus, it's probably too long. This is related to song structure. A lot of songwriters, for whatever reason, they'll get to the end of a line and they'll add a bar or two that doesn't need to be there, and we'll typically cut that out. But you don't even want to write that in there to begin with, and be aware that's probably going to be considered poor songwriting here when you start working with co-writers in Nashville. Think of a song as being mathematical and typically divisible by 4 when you're talking about 4/4 country songs. 4 bars is a phrase, then another 4-bar phrase, and that's it. You're into the next line. 4 bars, 4 bars. You don't need bars 8, 9, 10 out hanging out there. Those need to be eliminated, so write concisely. Keep your ear to the radio, because a lot of people, especially older folks that write songs, tend to write what they heard when they first started listening to country music, and they'll write songs that sound like they're from the 80s or the 70s or even the 60s. If you listen to the radio right now, it's mostly pop country, very much rock country that sounds like 80s rock. That's not to be confused with 80s country that had a lot of strings in it and things. Real sappy Kenny Rogers kind of stuff. That doesn't happen on the radio these days. So, and especially too, if you're producing your own music, you want to stay away from production values that were popular back then. You need to really just keep your ear on the radio, like I said, and try to emulate what's on there. Jason Aldean, Florida Georgia Line, Chris Young. The sounds now are not what was happening back in the day. Now that's a song I can work with.